All right, everybody. If you've been in here for a while, you'll be very surprised to know that I'm David Burks. I'm the Director of Market Strategy at Expedient. Still here. So a lot of people know we own and operate data centers. They look at us as co-location, ping power, things of that nature. And that was true. Probably 7 or 8 years ago, that was 90% of what our business was. Now it's more 50-50 with cloud technology, infrastructure as a service. So very briefly, we really have 3 flavors of cloud that are available to you. There's a public cloud, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's multi-tenancy on our infrastructure. There is a private cloud for people that have regulatory requirements or need to be the only people sitting on the platform. And what is becoming very popular now is a hybrid cloud, and that can take on multiple facets. It could be people who are willing to virtualize, but nobody's figured out how to virtualize an AS400, so that has to come in the physical realm. Or it could be somebody who knows they want to go cloud, but they're not quite ready to jump in without looking, so the physical hardware gets forklifted into our data center, and then as they get through some sort of renewal cycle, instead of spending that money to rebuy all the hardware, they transition into our stack. So that would be a hybrid cloud offering, and we have all 3. Along the way, if anybody has any questions about what we do, you can speak to me in between, or we have Denny and Joe sitting at the back table who'll be more than happy to talk to you and push pens on you. So please see them if you have any questions. So the next topic of the day. 1 year into keeping the lights on with big data. I'd like to bring up to the stage from Duquesne Light, Sanjay Akut, who is in charge of corporate applications. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Yes, so the title of my presentation is 1 year into keeping the lights on with big data. And the reason that it's titled that way is this is my pleasure to be speaking here 1 year later from last year. And last year, whenever I was speaking, my message was, I started with this slide, a big picture, that's a really big picture of me. But I'm the Director of Corporate Applications at Duquesne Light. Last year, I was on the job for 5 months. So I was asked to speak about the vision of what we wanted to do with big data and business intelligence at Duquesne Light. We hadn't done any of it. And if you watch the presentation, I kind of laid out a vision for all the big things that we wanted to do there, as I'm charged with building out that business intelligence discipline at Duquesne Light. So I was very excited to have the opportunity to come up and talk to you guys about just 1 year later, how far we've come. And I'm very excited to talk about it. So let's start with where did we start? So last year, I definitely encourage you, go onto YouTube, look at last year's presentation. It's tremendous. That's why I'm here again, okay? So where did we start? And in last year's presentation, I basically explained why you don't traditionally would think of a utility as a place for big data. But Duquesne Light absolutely has a lot of big data. We have a lot of data out there. You heard Mike and the OCSoft folks talk a little bit earlier today about their product, which deals with all of the sensor data that's coming from our SCADA systems. And their system, the OCSoft software and Pi, does a tremendous job at managing all of that. And even outside of that, we have tons and tons of data. Over the last couple of years, we've been in the middle of a big IT transformation at Duquesne Light. And all of these new systems are spitting off a whole bunch of data. And as I spoke to last year, the access to that data was pretty limited. There were some operational reports, and people were doing a decent job at getting their reports out of systems. But a lot of the nitty-gritty, if you wanted to ask for a specific piece of data, it always required an IT request for anything beyond your daily reporting. And as I said, I was charged with building out the business intelligence practice, so that meant building a brand new team. We went out and we hired people that do this, and I have a manager of business intelligence, and we hired some business intelligence developers, kind of built that team from scratch. We wanted to get a handle on the reporting, just general reporting. When we walked in, there was literally a backlog of hundreds and hundreds of items that our business users, out of all these new systems, were saying, we want to get data, we want to get data. So that's where we started. 1 year later, we wanted to focus on that. And what we did was we came up with an Agile BI process to keep up with those business reporting needs. So that was the very first thing. And one of the things that I'm very proud of that we were able to implement at Duquesne Light within just a year. We implemented an Agile business intelligence process. And what that does is that allows us, so I'm a software developer, you know, that's where I've come up in my career. I'm a big proponent of Agile. I was a Agile Manifesto disciple way back in the day. So I've always known how great of a methodology it is to solving business problems through software development. So what we did was we adopted some of those principles and adopted those Agile methodologies as much as we could in a business intelligence area. So we take an iterative approach to business intelligence. So what we do is we actually meet with the business. It's very Scrum-like for those that know Scrum. We run sprints. So at the very beginning of the sprint, we start with a backlog of all the things the business is asking for. We ask them to prioritize what they want done in the next 2 weeks. We have all the sticky boards and all the things that you would see in a normal Agile shop. We have all of that. We move the sticky notes around. We make a commitment to the business that we're actually going to deliver on these things within the next 2 weeks. We come back after 2 weeks. We show them all the things that we've delivered, and we move on to the next 2 weeks. It's been working tremendously. The business had always thought of, man, these requests of ours, they go into a black hole, and sometimes the team gets a little bit dispersed with changing priorities all the time. And now that we've adopted this approach, don't talk to us or change our priority unless it's urgent within the 2 weeks, and let us get that out of the way. And just 2 weeks later, we'll get you what you need. So that was very, very big for us. And I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to build out this Agile business intelligence process at Duquesne Light. So that was pretty exciting. But what does that do? When you talk about the evolution of business intelligence, the very top left-hand corner is reporting. So we got a pretty good handle on reporting over the last year. We implemented our Agile process. We started to make use and really deliver these reports in a way that the business can get to them and be very happy with them. But we wanted to start to evolve as a business intelligence practice. We wanted to go beyond reporting and get to all of the cool things that we look at and that we're all hearing about today at the conference today. So we needed to start moving along that axis. We wanted to get into analysis and then eventually into monitoring and ultimately being able to predict. Instead of being reactive, let's be proactive. All the things that we've been talking about as business intelligence professionals, right? So we got a good handle on reporting. We wanted to move into the analysis phase of our evolution. So what did we do? Like all of us that we do in the business intelligence world, we kicked off an enterprise data warehouse project. We said, okay, what we need to do is we need to take all of these disparate systems, we need to put them together into an EDW, and then we need to slap dashboards and analysis and reports on top of those things, right? So it's traditional. It's the way that we've been doing it. It's not necessarily, we're using a lot of data, but it's not necessarily big data. It's kind of the way that we've been doing things for a while, but it's worked, right? So we kicked off that enterprise data warehouse project, and that was about a year ago or so. And I'm glad to say that it's made a lot of progress, and we really started with a number of different use cases, and we've worked with a number of different partners on helping us with that. And so we've made really good progress on the data warehouse project. What we did was we picked financial data. So we started with billing and delinquencies. So we're a utility. Let's start getting a handle on our billing and delinquencies. Let's put that into the warehouse. Let's see what insights we could gain off of that. So that actually started and has been going very well. What are some of the issues that we ran into in that traditional approach to business intelligence? So we wanted to look at enterprise data warehousing. That's what we've always done. But we ran into some issues. And these are issues that I think would be very common to a lot of you. Access to the source data. Our Agile approach meant that we only took data as we needed it. So we would go and say, give me 5 tables from here because I have a specific use case that I'm trying to build out in my warehouse. Oh, wait, we're looking at some analysis. Now I need 2 more tables. For all of you that work in a production IT environment, going back to the well for those additional sources, data sources, is always difficult, right? You have to talk to the application owner and make sure that they're cool with you connecting and security permissions and all of those kinds of things. it just makes it a little bit more difficult. You don't have ready access to that table. In the development world, we want to be nimble, we want to innovate. And for BI developers, when they're looking at something and they see an insight that they might be able to gain and all they need is another table, and it takes days and maybe a week to grab that table and put it into their system, they might have lost what they were trying to innovate on. So that's just a problem. And I think we ran into that, and I think that that's a very common thing in the normal enterprise data warehouse world. Traditional ETL processes, so grabbing those 5 tables, running them through your traditional ETL, doing your transformations and doing your loads, those are pretty complex. We didn't take things. In our warehouse, the data looks very, very different than it does in the source system. So running those ETL processes took time and skill to develop. We had to bring in specialized people who just do the ETL processes, along with partners who helped us out with some of those things. So we brought in skill, but it took a lot of time to develop. The complexity of those ETL processes, it was very, very difficult. And that's a specialized development skill in taking things from a source transactional system into your warehouse, the Snowflake and star schema and all of that stuff. It's a difficult process to do. It's very complex. And then the maintenance of those ETL processes also became difficult. So these are the issues that we ran into. And this isn't, they weren't showstoppers. This isn't say that we rose our hand and said, boy, we made a huge mistake. But it was just, these are things that we've run into. Is there any solution to these types of problems? Now we come into big data. So the data lake to the rescue. So what we did was we said, okay, these are the issues that we're having. And I just like staring at that picture a little bit, huh? On a cold winter day. So we said, these are the issues that we're having, and how do we solve those issues? And what we did was we took a look at this new idea, this actual big data idea of the data lake. So what did we do? We said, okay, we want to build out a data lake, and we want to make a move to a data lake. Should we build that ourselves, or should we make the move to the cloud? We decided to go all in on the cloud. We happened to go all in on the Microsoft Azure platform. I'm a Microsoft guy. I've come up in the space. I love the technology, but I'm not here to have a religious debate. I don't want any Amazon EC2 guys coming up here and fighting with me about it. You're an Amazon person, go Amazon. We decided to use the Microsoft Cloud. One of my areas of responsibility is the Microsoft Center of Excellence, so it made sense for us from a technology platform perspective. We went all in on the cloud. And what did that do for us? It's your traditional cloud rationale. We did not have to worry about, we weren't burdened with standing up the infrastructure. We didn't need to hire Hadoop experts and infrastructure experts simply to run this new infrastructure. We literally clicked a couple buttons in a portal, and within minutes, our data lake was available to us. We also decided wherever we could, we wanted to use the platform as a service available to us in the Microsoft Azure cloud. So rather than infrastructure, standing up VMs, we could have done that. We could have done that, and stood up VMs and run any software that we wanted to. What we chose to do as a development team, we chose to run anything that we could as a platform as a service. And we started with that data factory. So data factory is a way to move data from here to there. It's out in the cloud. It's very scalable. We didn't need to worry about it. If it started to bog down because of the amount of data coming through, we could scale it very easily, literally with a slider bar in a web portal, versus taking something down, standing up additional VMs, trying to determine. Anybody that's tried to scale SSIS, it's not the easiest thing in the world. So anytime that we could, we decided to use a platform as a service, and that takes us, started with Data Factory, and that takes us into the Azure Data Lake. So as a platform as a service, we stood up a data lake inside of the Azure platform, and we said, that's what we're going to use. We're going to put our data there, and that's where we're going to start. Again, this is not meant to be it's not a commercial for Microsoft. Use the platform that you decide on that makes the most sense for your organization. If you're Amazon, use Amazon. A lot of the public cloud offerings have very similar platform as a service type of offerings. So this isn't meant to be a commercial. This is what we did at Duquesne Light. And really one of the reasons that we were able to make so much progress in simply a year. We also looked at a couple of their other platform as a service offerings. They have something called the Azure SQL Data Warehouse platform, which isn't a data lake, but it's a massively parallel processing data warehouse solution. And we actually started with that and decided that that wasn't quite meeting the need for the problems that we were trying to solve, which is why we moved into this data lake area. So we wanted to move over into this data lake, and what did we do? We set up a couple of guidelines, and what we said was, we want to take streaming and data sources and store them in as close to the original format as possible. Remember, one of the problems that we ran into was the transformation, all the ETL processes, how complex they were. We said, forget about doing any transformations. The data lake doesn't care. The data lake would just take anything that you have and you can store it there. So we said, where legally appropriate, we would store the data in the data lake in the cloud in as close to the original format as possible, which means we're literally just streaming data as it comes in and putting it into the data lake. So that was guideline number one. We wanted the life cycle requirements, basically, is it daily, is it every minute, is it real time, based on specific use cases, right? So we didn't have any use case that required for what we're doing right now anything more than a daily. So what we do is on our life cycle, we're running things daily. Various analytics, data discovery processes, one-off data sets, schema on read capabilities for the data lake, which allows us to do rapid development and prototyping. When we talk about that, I don't know if you've heard of this schema on read, but in the traditional enterprise data warehouse, the schema is already set. Its schema is defined on write, which is why those transformations are so complex. What this is, in the data lake, the data is sitting there in its raw format. So what we do is we write scripts to take it and make it look like the data you want it to be on read. So for my use case, I can write a script that takes it and makes it look like this. The same data, someone else could write a script and make it look like that. And that's what we do. We sit on top of this raw data. And then what we do is, because we're a Microsoft shop, we take SSAS, SQL Server Analysis Services, tabular models, we sit them on top of those schemas, and we call them micro data marts. So we say, to solve that financial data problem, we're gonna build a purposeful built tabular model that solves the problem of billing and delinquencies. We're gonna run it with its own, based on its own use case, and have that available for our folks. We're gonna build another one, and another one, and another one. So we end up with an architecture, something like this, where we ingest data into our big data platform. We are just starting to, we're a year and we've made a lot of progress, but I wouldn't say that we're quite there yet on the machine learning. We're doing things like propensity to call for those of us Duquesne Light customers. We are doing scoring our customer service agents when they're taking calls, things like that. And then the platform goes up based on the use case. Some of our things, like our new website, sits on top of the platform and pulls things up in real time. And some of our things, which are analytics and reporting, don't need quite as real time. So we're building out this process in this platform, and we've done so in just 1 year, which I'm proud to say and very happy to be up here talking about. That's it. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Well, if for some reason they ask you to come back for a third year,
I can't imagine.
I can't imagine either. But, what type of things do you have in your pipeline that you would want to talk about next year?
So these things that we're talking about here, I think that bottom layer, that machine learning, predictive analytics, data enrichment, taking some public sources of data. You showed the PJM. Yeah. Operations center. So maybe taking weather data, getting better at our demand predictions for PJM, those types of things. Maybe equipment, predicting failures of equipment, those types of things. Once we have all of this data in there, we can layer on, and I actually have a data scientist on staff, and he is chomping at the bit to write some equations and do all the data science stuff to predict things off of the data.
Did you think about the PMU data that PJM's involved with?
We-
For measuring units?
So we have, I would tell you that since you guys do such a good job with the software that you sell, or that you give away, Mike, we've kind of put the operational stuff to the side for now, because we've said with some of your partner tools, we're handled on that side. The folks in our operations center have access to that data. We're dealing mostly with the corporate stuff right now.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. Appreciate it.